Dormer Masonic Study Circle number 47, The Great Work in Speculative Freemasonry. Throughout the ages, the spiritual doctrine which is concealed within the architectural phraseology of our modern craft system has undergone the influence of many different traditions of the ancient wisdom. The student, therefore, who seeks to analyze Freemasonry as it stands today often finds himself lost in a bewildering maze of various tributaries of knowledge and is apt to pore indefinitely over a mass of fragmentary facts without perceiving their interrelation or being able to coordinate them into one comprehensive scheme. In this paper, the attempt will be made to present, for the guidance of Masonic students, an interpretation of the Egyptian metaphysical tradition in harmony with the teachings set forth in what are called the Mysteries. The Egyptian tradition will then be briefly discussed in the light of its transmission and the ultimate incorporation in speculative Freemasonry. Finally, reasons will be given in support of the theory, which we hold to be valid, that the great work, magnus opus, of the Rosicrucians and spiritual alchemists is the same as that which is symbolized in our Masonic legend of Hiram Abiff. Thoughtful students may find in the references to the Old Wisdom and the Mystery tradition an introduction to a great subject. Nor should the Mysteries be thought of only as institutions long vanished into the night of time. Rather, their re-establishment is to be accepted as inevitable. In years to come, a wiser generation will restore the sacred rites which are indispensable to the spiritual, intellectual, and social security of the race. Meanwhile, preserving the witness, Freemasonry keeps burning the light of the perpetual mysteries in a dark age. If, in comparison with former witnesses, Freemasonry is but a glimmering ray, rather than a powerful beam of light, it is nonetheless a true ray, a kindly light lit from the world's central altar flame, is sufficient, at least, to lead some aspirants on amid the encircling gloom until the existing state of darkness is dispelled by the dawn of a new era. Becoming more familiar with the language of the secret societies and the mystery schools, and should know that that language is some more New World Order language. Dawn of a new era, new age, etc. It is now generally acknowledged by those competent to judge that of all the ancient peoples, the Egyptians were the most learned in the wisdom of the secret doctrine. Indeed, there are some who would have it that Egypt was the mother of the mysteries, and that it was on the banks of the Nile that the royal art was born. We can affirm, without entering into any controversy on the matter, that the wisest of philosophers from other nations visited Egypt to be initiated in the sacred mysteries. Thales, Solon, Pythagoras, Plato are all related to have journeyed from Greece to the delta of the Nile in quest of knowledge, and upon returning to their own country, these illumined men each declared the Egyptians to be the wisest of mortals, and the Egyptian temples to be the repositories of sublime doctrines concerning the history of the gods and the regeneration of men. To the earliest period of Egyptian metaphysical speculation belongs the fable of Isis and Osiris, and we find that the myth of the dying god recurs in many of the great world religions. Also, it is an established fact that the life, death, and resurrection of the immortal mortal had become the prototype for numerous other doctrines of human regeneration. The fable, as it has descended to us in the account given by Plutarch, the celebrated Greek biographer, has not been much amplified by modern research, nor has any new key been found to unlock the sublime drama, which may well be termed the passion play of Egypt. Plutarch himself, however, says that the mystic symbols are well known to us who belong to the Brotherhood. And this intimation suggests that the interpretation of the myths as it is given by him in his Isis and Osiris will reveal its hidden meaning to students who are already familiar with the principles of the doctrine. Moreover, a perusal of the introductory remarks made by Plutarch discloses that these are of special significance. For if he, by any word or symbol, reveals even a small part of the sacred mystery to the uninitiated, We may fairly claim that such revelation is to be found in the following excerpt from the text of his work. Hang on a second. Isis, according to the Greek interpretation of the word, signifies knowledge, as does the name of her professed adversary, Typhon, signify insolence and pride. A name therefore extremely well adapted to one who, full of ignorance and error, tears in pieces and conceals that holy doctrine, which the goddess collects, compiles, and delivers to those who aspire after the most perfect participation of the divine nature. We have in this passage a clear indication that Osiris is to be regarded as the personification of an order of learning, because Plutarch identifies him beyond question with the holy doctrine, or in other words, the mystery tradition. Hence, we may further deduce that since in the Egyptian system Thoth personifies the whole sphere of knowledge, and it was through Thoth that Osiris came into being, so Osiris embodies the secret and sacred wisdom reserved for those who were proficient in the ancient rites. To the elect, therefore, Osiris represented primordial knowledge, and he signified not only divine at-one-ment with the Absolute, which is the end of all illumination, but by his life, death, and resurrection, he also revealed the means by which mortal consciousness could attain that end. Stated alternatively, the personality of Osiris typifies the institution erected by the ancients in order to perpetuate the deathless truths of the soul. You run into so many people completely ignorant of all this, right? And not understanding, that the crazy reality, that these initiates of these mystery schools that run the, businesses, banks, whatnot, put their symbols out there, and people just gloss over these as if they're just nothing to be looked at. And one example of this is there's a shoe company called Osiris. Now, many even have a clue as to what, religion the founder of that company obviously belongs to. Most likely, anyways. We will examine the Egyptian historical tradition. According to this, Osiris is the first of the 5 children of the goddess Nut. He therefore corresponds with the first of the 5 divine kings of China and the 5 exoterically known Dhyana Buddhas of Lamaism. The 5 children of Nut are otherwise the 5 traditional root races which have populated the 5 continents which have appeared upon the earth. Isis is represented as being born on the 4th day and is connected with the 4th race. The tradition of Osiris, the primitive revelation of the first race, coming into Egypt through the Atlantean mystery school, of which Isis is the symbol. From the Egyptian account of the reign of Osiris as king, we glean the following philosophical history. There was a time, the Golden Age, when truth and wisdom ruled the earth, and this aristocracy of wisdom was a benevolent despotism in which men were led to a nobler state of being by the firm, kindly hand of the enlightened sage. That is another one of the names that they give to the New World Order, the reestablishment of the Golden Age. And notice how he says it's a benevolent despotism, which is exactly what they claim that their New World Order is going to be with them ruling it. This was the dynasty of the mythological priest kings, who were qualified to govern humanity by reason not only of temporal but of divine attributes. Through his priests, Osiris, representative of the hidden tradition, ruled the entire world by virtue of the perfection resident in that tradition. If then we may concede that Osiris is the positive pole of the universal life agent, Isis becomes the receptive pole of that activity. He is the doctrine, She is the church. So Osiris represents the doctrine of the mystery schools, which is what? Man is God. Isis represents the church, the institution itself. And as in Christianity, it is customary to refer to the church as the bride of Christ, so in ancient Egypt, the institution of the mysteries was the Great Mother, the consort of heaven itself. From this interpretation, we gain a deeper insight into the symbolism of the whole Osirian cycle. Isis signifies the temporal order of the priesthood, the cumulative body of initiates. She is personified as the temple. She is the mother of all good, the protectress of right, the patron of all improvement. She ensures nobility, inspires virtue, and awakens the nobler passions of the soul. Like the moon as a reflector, she shines only with the light of her sovereign sun, even as the temple can only be illumined by its indwelling truth. In the Egyptian metaphysical system, Typhon, the conspirer against Osiris, is the embodiment of every perversity. He is the negative creation, the Ahriman of Zoroaster. He is black magic and sorcery, the Black Brotherhood, and his wife Nephthys is the institution that which he manifests. And there's pretty clear on what, to them, the Black Brotherhood is. And the negative creation of black magic is to them. It's not what the lower levels think. Just like with Gnostics, you see the God of the Bible represents, it is Satan to them. And so you could say, in an esoteric sense, that Typhon is, Jehovah. And Osiris, since he represents, going back, the doctrine that man is God. Something like that, going back here real quick. I lost that place right there, but, oh yeah, primordial knowledge. The divine at one with the absolute. So that knowledge given, according to them, and the myth Prometheus, Lucifer. So, in esoteric sense here, I think Osiris represents Lucifer. And Typhon, Jehovah or Yahweh, whatever the heck. In the Black Brotherhood, the church. Sorry, going on here. The traditional history relates that Typhon lured Osiris into the Ark of Destruction, stated to be a chest or coffin, the symbol of material organization, the imprisonment of the soul in a physical body. At the time when the sun entered the house of Scorpio, the 17th day of the second month of the Egyptian year, corresponding to the month of November in our calendar year. Hence we know him to be the type of the eternal negative, the betrayer of the Lord, namely Judas. In the initiation rites, Typhon is also the tester, or trier, personifying ambition, the patron of ruin. Typhon was assisted in his impious design to usurp the throne of Osiris by Aso, the queen of Ethiopia, and 72 other conspirators. These conspirators represent the three destructive powers, the three ruffians, which are preserved to modern Freemasonry as the murderers of the master builder. They are ignorance, superstition, and fear. Thus the advent of greed and perversion marked the end of the golden age with the death of Osiris. Typhon forthwith ascended the throne as regent of the world. So you see what you're following me here. And we've heard this from other Masonic authors, as I've read on this channel. And they've used the three words, ignorance, superstition, and fear. And just like, Bill Cooper has showed, when he was alive on his show, talked a lot about this, that, their enemy is the church, because the church was the one particularly the Catholic Roman Church, were the ones that silenced the mystery religions and, burned down their temples and persecuted them. They went underground and formed the secret societies and whatnot. Brought about the Dark Age, according to them. So again, this is verifying what I'm saying here. Typhon represents what the God of the Bible and the Christian Church. Typhon is the representation of that. So, to them. It is further narrated that in consequence of the material organization of the social sphere, which followed upon the exile of truth to the invisible world, Isis, the mother of the mysteries, was so defiled and desecrated by the profane that her sages and prophets were forced to flee into the wilderness to escape the machinations of the evil one. At this stage, Isis, now represented by the scattered but still consecrated body of initiates, began the great search for the secret that was lost, and in all parts of the world the virtuous in grief and distress raised their hands to the heavens, pleading for the restoration of the reign of truth. Continuing their search in all parts of the earth and throughout innumerable ages, the congregation of the just at last rediscovered the lost arcana, brought it back with rejoicing to the world over which it once ruled. In this matter we learn Isis by magic, the initiated priests were magicians, resurrected the dead god, and through union with him brought forth an order of priests under the collective title of Horus. These were the Hurj Shesta, the brothers of Horus, the chief of whom were the dog-headed mask of Anubis. Anubis was the son of Osiris by Nephthys, the material world, and represents the divine man or the mortal being who rose to enlightenment. Ambition, however, personified by Typhon, knowing that temporal power must die if the divine power in the form of truth became re-established in the world, put forth all its might to again scatter the doctrine, and this time so thoroughly that it should never again be rediscovered. If, as Plutarch has suggested, Typhon in one of his manifestations represents the sea, then it would appear that the second destruction of Osiris may refer to the Atlantean deluge, alluded to in the dialogues of Plato, of which the doctrine was swallowed up or lost, or then its fragments scattered among all the existing civilizations of that time. According to the narrative, the body of Osiris, the sacred doctrine, was now divided into 14 parts and distributed among the parts of the world. That is, it was scattered through the 7 divine and 7 infernal spheres, the lokas and talas of the Indian tradition, or by a different symbolism, through the 7 worlds which are without and the 7 worlds which are within. The parts of Osiris were now scattered so hopelessly that Typhon felt his authority to be secure at last. But wisdom is not so easily to be cheated, and in due time we are informed Isis succeeded in recovering all the parts except one, the phallus, which had been thrown into the river, devoured by 3 fishes. Failing to recover the phallus, Isis is said to have substituted a golden replica for the missing organ. In our interpretation of this symbolism, we must infer that mankind itself is represented by the fish, the phallus being the symbol of the vital and immortal principle, and so used in Egyptian hieroglyphics. The phallus therefore denotes the lost word, the threefold generative power. The golden replica of Egypt, which was rendered alive by magic, is the equivalent of the 3-lettered word of our modern Freemasonry, concealed in the Royal Arch degree under the letters A-U-M. It should be here noted that in the Egyptian rites, Isis, by modeling and reproducing the missing member of Osiris, gives the body the appearance of completeness, but the life power is not there. Recourse is therefore had to magic, and the golden phallus is brought to life by means of the secret processes rescued from the lost book of Thoth. The allusion is to the restoration of divine power through the regeneration of man himself and the initiation processes. Isis was the patroness of the magical arts among the Egyptians, but the use to which magic should be put is clearly shown in the Osirian cycle, where Isis applies the most potent of her charms and invocations to accomplish the resurrection of Osiris. In other words, the magical power is used solely for the purpose of the redemption of the human soul. Masonic students are recommended to study carefully such magical practices as evidence in the various types of dramatic initiatory ritual. To quote eminent psychologist Dr. Jung from his commentary to The Secret of the Golden Flower, quote, magical practices are the projections of psychic events which in cases like these exert a counter influence on the soul and act like a kind of enchantment of one's own personality. That is to say, by means of these concrete performances, the attention, or better said, the interest, is brought back to an inner sacred domain, which is the source and goal of the soul. The inner domain contains the unity of life and consciousness, which, though once possessed, has been lost and must now be found again. Unquote. In the Egyptian rites, Horus is the savior Avenged, son of Isis, conceived by magic, the ritual, after the brutal murder of Osiris, since he is the posthumous redeemer. The destruction of Typhon is to be accomplished by Isis through her immaculately conceived son Horus, which is a term concealing the collective body of the perfected adepts who were born again out of the womb of the mother Isis, the mystery school. So the destruction of the Christian church and the Christian age and everything to do with what, well, try to destroy them. The old world order. We can apply this analogy to our great modern system of initiation, which has certainly perpetuated the outer form of the ancient rites. Freemasonry as an institution is, in a sense, the modern Isis, the mother of the mysteries, from whose dark womb the initiates are born in the mystery of the second or philosophic birth. Similarly, all Masonic adepts, Master Masons, are by virtue of their participation in the rites, figuratively speaking, sons of the widow. They are the offspring of the institution widowed by the loss of the living word, and theirs is the eternal quest they discover by becoming. Becoming. Becoming what? Becoming God. Now we understand the whole meaning behind the Masonic distress call. Is there no help for a son of the widow, or for the sons of the widow? Whatever, you get my point. If you're not familiar with that, just go look it up. The metaphysical significance of the death and resurrection of the Egyptian demigod has for the most part been lost to the craft. Notwithstanding the undoubted fact that Masonic scholars of the caliber of Pike, Mackey, and Oliver are in general agreement as to a definite association between the legend of Osiris and the drama enacted in the third degree. We may, however, attribute the failure of students to recognize the Egyptian origin of certain parts of craft lodge ritualism and symbolism to the transmission of the legend by way of the Hebrews, who naturally superimposed their own terminology on the tradition they received from Egypt. In the schools of Hebrew mysticism, the mystery drama of the death and resurrection of Osiris became that of the slaying and raising of the master builder, and the Temple of Solomon took the place of the Egyptian house of light. With the rabbinical mystics, the erection and subsequent vicissitudes of Solomon's temple provided a great glyph or mythos of the upbuilding of the human soul, and this secret lore also found partial of a cryptic expression in the Hebrew public scriptures in terms of building. The next important influence affecting the ancient tradition was that of the Christian mysteries, those rites of which Clement and Origen spoke so highly, and as the course of Hebrew history advanced, and the stream of mystical doctrine widened into its Christian development, the same symbolic terminology continued to be used. We find, therefore, that the Gospels, Epistles, and the Apocalypse teem with Masonic imagery and allusions to spiritual building. Indeed, it is in these that the human soul is expressly declared to be the real temple, which is prefigured by the earlier historic or quasi-historic structure, while a spiritual chief cornerstone, rejected of certain builders, is mentioned. St. Ignatius, one of the known pupils of St. John, is to be found expounding the teaching of the mysteries in the following purely Masonic terms. Quote, "Forasmuch as ye are stones of a temple, which were prepared beforehand for a building of God, the Father, being hoisted up to the heights by the working tool of Jesus Christ, which is the cross, and using for a rope the Holy Spirit, your faith being a windlass and love the way leading up to God, so that ye are all companions in the way, spiritual temples, carrying your divine principle within you, your shrine, your Christ, your holy things, being arrayed from head to foot with the commandments of Christ. Ignatius, Epistle to the Ephesians. The pronounced Masonic imagery used by St. Ignatius, who was martyred at Rome in AD 107, tends to corroborate the tradition that the square, level, and plumb rule, now allocated to the master or wardens of a lodge, were formerly associated with the bishop, priest, and deacon when serving at the secret altars of the persecuted Christians. Put together, the three tools form obviously a cross, which on the worshippers being disturbed by the secular authorities, could be quickly knocked apart and appear as builders' implements. The mysteries came to an end as public institutions in the 6th century when, from political considerations, they and the teaching of the secret doctrine and philosophy became prohibited by the Roman government at the instigation of Justinian, who aimed at inaugurating an official uniform state religion throughout the empire. Since the suppression of the mysteries, however, their tradition and teaching have been continued under various concealments, and to that continuation our modern Masonic system is due. We got another Mason admitting this. To the early Middle Ages, the inner Christian tradition appeared again in the Knights Templars and the mysteries of the Holy Grail, and it is significant that these henceforth became associated with speculative Freemasonry. But the most profound influence which went to make Freemasonry what it is today was that of the mysterious Order of the Rosy Cross. The memory of this Rosicrucian influence is preserved not only in the 18th degree of the ancient and accepted rite, but also in the craft degrees, especially in the 3rd degree. The exoteric history, remember, mind you, exoteric meaning outer for the public, of the Rosicrucian Society commences with the year 1614. In that year there was published at Kassel in Germany a pamphlet entitled, quote, The Discovery of the Fraternity of the Meritorious Order of the Rosy Cross, addressed to the learned in general and the governors of Europe, unquote. After a discussion of the momentous questions of the general reformation of the world, which was to be accomplished through the medium of a secret confederacy of the wisest and most philanthropic men, the pamphlet proceeds to inform its readers that such an association is already in existence, having been founded over 100 years earlier by the famous Christian Rosencreutz, grand initiate in the mysteries of alchemy, whose history, which is clearly of a fabulous or symbolic nature, is given. The following year, a further pamphlet, The Confession of the Rosicrucian Fraternity, addressed to the learned in Europe, appeared in the night 1616, The Chemical Nuptials of Christian Rosicrucians. This latter book is a remarkable allegorical romance describing how an old man, a lifelong student of the alchemistic art, was present at the accomplishment of the Magnus Opus, great work, in the year 1459. From the Masonic point of view, it was obviously not without adequate reason, that Michael Mayer, one of the greatest of the reputed Rosicrucians, born in 1568, exhibited on the title page of his book, Septimana Philosophica, King Solomon imparting his riddles to the Queen of Sheba on his right hand, and Hiram on the left. And as early as 1638, we find Adamson declaring in his Muses Threnodii, quote, For we are brethren of the Rosy Cross, we had the Mason word and second sight, unquote. Showing how intimately the two orders were identified, we also have the later testimony of Dr. Sigismund Backstrom. Sigismund, spelled Sigmund, and Backstrom, Bacstron, who claims to have been initiated into the Society of the Rosicrucians on the Isle of Mauritius on September 12, 1794, by the mysterious Comte de Chazal, and who has left extensive manuscripts setting forth his findings and opinions on matters of importance to Masonic students. The learned doctor describes the transition through which the ancient brotherhood passed in the process of externalizing certain parts of itself in the system we know as speculative Freemasonry. His conclusions agree with the available evidence, all of which points to the fact that one definite group was behind the movement which projected the craft system. To trace the genesis of the movement, which came into activity some 250 years ago, is beyond the scope of our present subject. It should, however, be stated here that the movement itself incorporated the slender ritual and the elementary symbolism which for centuries previously had been employed in connection with the medieval building guilds, but it gave to them a far fuller meaning and a far wider range. We may regard it as certain that the craft received from this source much of the old operative lodges had never possessed, such as the third degree, with its highly mystical opening and closing, the craft legend or traditional history, a central part of the installation rite, now observed in the conclave or board of installed masters, and many other allusions to occult, science, mysticism, and even magic. So, well, that's an earful. Going to finish this up with the next video.